When, in Act 3 of The Inspector, our anti-hero Klestikov swears he has written The Marriage of Figaro, The Nutcracker, Faust, and Romeo and Juliet, we do well to remember that Gogol, at the end of his life, spent a non-trivial amount of time in the writer's room of I Love Lucy. This is not true, but misplacing Gogol here might help us answer, for this play, the theater's dullest question: why now? Beyond the due diligence of Trump, Trump, Trump and fraudulent men slipping by on charisma that come so readily to mind. Instead, where might have Gogol foreseen 200 years ago one of the dominant genres of our time, what the affect theorist Sian Nye identifies as the zany? Often The Inspector can feel like an episode of that sitcom. Frenetic itinerant work by way of an excess of optimism with a dearth of ability, labor and play blurring and threatening to become dangerous, creating never-ending dilemmas that shape characters best watched from a distance lest we become injured in their flailings. The progenitor of Russian literature doesn't deal here with the sweep of time Tolstoy would later explore in, say, War and Peace. Neither at war nor remotely peaceful, the characters in Gogol's world instead move from moment to moment without reflection. They manage dysfunction with made-to-order and self-destructing solutions, unable to settle, living paycheck to paycheck or bribe to bribe, in modern parlance, gig to gig. The failure of Tsarism here looks eerily like the advanced stages of capitalism. In Gogol's world, as in ours, the appropriate question seems less why now than it is why now, and now why now, and now why now. Consider a moment in which the mayor's wife, Anna, sees Klestikov on his knee in front of her daughter, Maria, and says, "Oh, what a situation." Then consider that a scene later, when Maria sees Klestikov on his knee in front of Anna, she too says, "Oh, what a situation." Now consider finally this definition of situation that comes to us from Lauren Berlant. A state of things in which something that will perhaps matter is unfolding amidst the usual activity of life. A state of animated and animating suspension that produces a sense of the emergence of something in the present that may become an event. The Inspector takes place in just such an ongoing crisis present, a succession of nows which refuse to foreclose themselves into meaning, which cannot congeal into events that might give these isolated lives the definition needed to fulfill Pyotr Bobchinsky's request to Klestikov, to announce somewhere in the big city that he lives and that he lives here. The Inspector, set in a world that at once demands and prohibits significance, might better be called 12 characters in search of an organizing trauma. The presence of Klestikov never reaches its meaningful conclusion, tragic or triumphant. The disappointment of fakery and corruption isn't strong enough to permanently destroy hope and replace it with something that might make the world more hospitable. In the end, we might ask ourselves not how susceptible each of us is to charm and charisma, but whether there is, in fact, an optimism crueler than the hope for salvation bureaucracy can offer, or one crueler than belief in salvation itself. Gogol, who isolated himself at the end of his life and betrayed his virtuosic artistry with a turn to religious fanaticism, seemed not to think so. Lucky for us, he left some evidence in the form of this very funny play that once he thought the question might be worth enduring.